Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
So we're in a very sacred and holy place.
Yes.
Bhaktivedanta Manor, where are we?
We're at Bhaktivedanta Manor in Srila Prabhupada's personal rooms. I just read outside, it's 1973 to 1977, if I'm hopefully not mistaken. So these rooms were used by Prabhupada. So many of the architecture, the things you see were personally used by Prabhupada. This is the room, as you can see, where he would sit at his low desk and dictate Bhagavatam and letters, and next door, coming up in the future Bhakti Vision vlog, is his bathroom, and then the room next to that is his personal bedroom. Very sacred, very, very, like a theatre.
It is a tirtha, absolutely a tirtha.
Yeah.
So you can feel Srila Prabhupada's presence, and we feel almost kind of like we shouldn't be reading. But of course devotees should read Prabhupada's books, and what a better place to read than with Srila Prabhupada here in his...
I just sat right there when I took my Brahmin initiation, my Gayatri mantra. My spiritual master sat over there next to me, and he told me to look at Prabhupada while he chanted the mantra. Just what I'd share that.
Amazing. Okay, so we're going to read, and it's not going to be a long reading, because it's a public room and devotees come in and out, and it's a busy, busy center. So
it's Canto 3, Chapter 31, Text 45.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Alright, when the eyes lose their power to see colour or form due to morbid affliction of the optic nerve, the sense of sight becomes deadened. The living entity, who is the seer of both the eyes and the sight, loses his power of vision. In the same way, when the physical body, the place where perception of objects occurs, is rendered incapable of perceiving, that is known as death. When one begins to view the physical body as one's very self, that is called birth. Purport. When one says, I see, this means that he sees with his eyes or with his spectacles. He sees with the instrument of sight. If the instrument of sight is broken or becomes diseased or incapable of acting, then he, as the seer, also ceases to act. Similarly, in this material body, at the present moment, the living soul is acting, and when the material body, due to its incapability to function, ceases, he also ceases to perform his reactionary activities. When one's instrument of action is broken and cannot function, that is called death. Again, when one gets a new instrument for action, that is called birth. This process of birth and death is going on at every moment by constant bodily change. The final change is called death, and acceptance of a new body is called birth. That is the solution to the question of birth and death. Actually, the living entity has neither birth nor death, but is eternal, as confirmed in Bhagavad Gita, Na hanyate hanyamane sarire. The living entity never dies, even after the death or annihilation of this material body. It's interesting that in the verse it says, when one begins to view the physical body as one's very self, that is called birth. I was thinking that when one begins to view the physical body as one's very self, it actually creates a sense of fearfulness, because then you start to fear death. Like, you start to fear that this is going to come to an end. And definitely before, and if I'm honest, even now at times I do feel that. I'm not on some amazing high platform, sometimes you think, what's going to happen? But definitely before I became, or took to the process, I can remember like a teenager or whatever, sitting in my room thinking, like feeling really scared that one day I'll cease to exist. And like, I was in my room, so I could hear my family downstairs, and I was thinking, if I died now, just right now, life would go on the next day for my parents. I'm not saying they'd be happy, I'm saying people would have to deal with what that means, but life would still go on, you know? Seasons, whatever, eating, drinking. And I just remember thinking that would be it, I'd be gone. I was so fearful before reading Prabhupada's books, and so like that sense of that he's here, you're gone. And sometimes that also, if I'm honest, it's not like when I'm on a platform where it's like, yeah, 100%, yeah, going back, no fears. But then I'm also realizing it's when you're not so focused on the process and on the, say, sadhana or this, that, so then the consciousness drifts to something which we could say is a lack of faith even, because I'm not plugged into the correct energy.
Interesting. Very nice. Shall we move on to the next verse?
Yes.
Text 47. Therefore, one should not view death with horror, nor have recourse to defining the body as soul, nor give way to exaggeration in enjoying the bodily necessities of life. Realizing the true nature of the living entity, one should move about in the world free from attachment and steadfast in purpose. There's a lot in that verse right there, isn't there? I'm just going to kind of read through it again just because it was like a lot. One should not view death with horror. Okay, so we shouldn't look upon death as horrible, like you said, because there should be an understanding that it's just the beginning. It's not the complete end, it's just the end of a chapter, end of a section. Nor have recourse to defining the body as soul. What does that mean? Nor have recourse to define the body as soul. Maybe Prabhupada will explain. Nor give way to exaggeration in enjoying the bodily necessities of life, which we're all prone to do. Exaggerate how much fun we're having, or how good life is. Realizing the true nature of the living entity, one should move about in the world free from attachment and steadfast in purpose. Okay? So realizing actually what's going on, we should become free, and we should move about not being attached, understanding that things come and go here. That's just the workings of the material energy. Anyway, Srila Prabhupada's purport. A sane person who has understood the philosophy of life and death is very upset upon hearing of the horrible hellish condition of life in the womb of the mother or outside of the mother. But one who has to make a solution to the problems of life, a sane man should understand the miserable condition of this material world. Without being unnecessarily upset, he should try to find out if there is a remedy. The remedial measures can be understood when one associates with persons who are liberated. It must be understood who is actually liberated. The liberated person is described in Bhagavad Gita, one who engages in uninterrupted devotional service to the Lord, having surpassed the stringent laws of material nature, is understood to be situated in Brahman. Okay, so this is very powerful. Basically, the same person shouldn't be upset upon hearing, is very upset upon hearing about the horrible hellish condition. So, means there should be a mood of compassion. One who is in knowledge feels compassion for the suffering of others. Aparadukkha dukhi. And basically, a liberated person, it's described who is actually liberated, who is free from these sufferings, and that's one who is constantly engaged in uninterrupted devotional service. Therefore, one's not affected by the laws of material nature like that.
Next paragraph. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is beyond the material creation. It is admitted even by impersonalists like Sankaracharya that Narayan is transcendental to this material creation. As such, when one actually engages in the service of the Lord in various forms, either Narayan or Radha Krishna or Sitaram, he is understood to be on the platform of liberation. The Bhagavatam also confirms that liberation means to be situated in one's constitutional position. Since the living entity is eternally the servant of the Supreme Lord, when one seriously and sincerely engages in the transcendental loving service of the Lord, he is situated in the position of liberation. One should try to associate with a liberated person, and then the problems of life, namely birth and death, can be solved. I think that's a nice point, that one should try to associate with a liberated person and the problems of life will be solved. So I think it's pretty clear that we're very fortunate, all of us, to be in the association of Srila Prabhupada, whether you met him physically or are meeting him now. No difference as such. Instructions still remain. So, yeah, that's what I have to say.
Yeah, I think, and we're associating, and we're all associating with Srila Prabhupada right now by hearing his words. And we can associate with the pure devotee, because real association means to hear from the pure devotee, not just to come and touch his feet or come and see him, have darshan, but actually to hear from and learn from the pure devotee. So that's what liberates us, is the divya jnanam, the divine knowledge. While discharging devotional service and full Krishna consciousness, one should not be miserly. Interesting. He should not unnecessarily show that he has renounced this world. Interesting. Actual renunciation is not possible. If one renounces his palatial building and goes to a forest, there is actually no renunciation, for the palatial building is the property of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and the forest is also the property of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is great. If he changes from one property to another, that does not mean that he renounces. He was never the proprietor of either the palace or the forest. Renunciation necessitates renouncing the false understanding that one can lord it over material nature. When one renounces this false attitude and renounces the puffed up position that he is also God, that is real renunciation. Otherwise, there is no meaning of renunciation. Rupa Goswami advises that if one renounces anything which could be applied in the service of the Lord and does not use it for that purpose, that is called palgo vairagya. Rather, palgo vairagya. Insufficient or false renunciation. Everything belongs to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, everything can be engaged in the service of the Lord. Nothing should be used for one's sense gratification. That is real renunciation. Nor should one unnecessarily increase the necessities of the body. We should be satisfied with whatever is offered and supplied by Krishna without much personal endeavor. Interesting. We should spend our time executing devotional service in Krishna consciousness. That is the solution to the problem of life and death. Wow, that's amazing. In fact, I just really love that purport. I'm just going to highlight that because it just drives home the point of renunciation and the fact that, you know, it's like Prabhupada almost poking fun at those who try to renounce something, because you have to understand that it was never yours to begin with. So if you say you gave it up, what do you mean you gave it up? It wasn't yours to begin with. It was always Krishna's. So it also, from the other angle or perspective, means that there isn't really any need to necessarily falsely try to give something up We simply need to understand it's not ours, it belongs to Krishna, and I need to engage it in Krishna's service. So whatever that may be, job, family, intelligence, strength, beauty, fame, fortune, whatever it is that we have, whatever opulence we may possess, quote unquote, or be in the custodial relationship with, we need to understand, yes, we're just custodians of this. We're just caretakers for Krishna, for our spiritual master, for Srila Prabhupada, and we need to engage it in their service. It's not meant for our sense gratification, but it's actually meant for and that's real renunciation. I think that's brilliant, huh? So nice, yeah. So nice.
Yeah, what do you really have to renounce?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, exactly. Yes, like one goes into the bank and says, I renounce this bank. I renounce all the money in this bank. Well, that's not your money. That's nice. Should we just finish?
Okay.
All right.
So this is the final verse, text 48. Endowed with right vision and strengthened by devotional service and a pessimistic attitude towards material identity, one should relegate his body to this illusory world through his reason. Thus one can be unconcerned with this material world. Purport. It is sometimes misunderstood that if one has to associate with persons engaged in devotional service, he will not be able to solve the economic problem. To answer this argument, it is described here that one has to associate with liberated persons not directly physically, but by understanding through philosophy and logic the problems of life. It is stated here, samyak dasanaya buddhya. One has to see perfectly, and by intelligence and yogic practice one has to renounce this world. That renunciation can be achieved by the process recommended in the 2nd chapter of the 1st canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. Do you need to read the final paragraph?
Okay. Interesting. I just think it's interesting that Prabhupada says that it is sometimes misunderstood that if one has to associate with a person engaged in devotional service, he will not be able to solve the economic problem. The answer to this is that it is described here that one has to associate with a liberated person, not directly physically. One has to see perfectly. It means that
you don't have to literally renounce everything to associate. You can still be working and doing your duty, but it's like through the philosophy, which is what we should do anyway. Prabhupada isn't saying everyone give up what you're doing and go and sit in a cave. Basically, doesn't he say that everything's zero until you add Krishna, which is one, and then that gives that reason and benefit and adds,
adds value.
Yeah.
Excuse me. Okay, next paragraph. That's great. Thank you. The devotee's intelligence is always in touch with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. His attitude towards the material existence is one of detachment. For he knows perfectly well that this material world is a creation of illusory energy. Realizing himself to be part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, the devotee discharges his devotional service and is completely aloof from material action and reaction. Thus, at the end, he gives up his material body or the material energy, and as pure soul, he enters the kingdom of God. Thus, in the Bhaktivedanta purports of the 3rd canto, 31st chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled Lord Kapila's Instructions on the Movements of the Living Entities. Wow, wonderful. So, completed another chapter, and how many chapters are there? 33, I think. Yeah, 33, and we'll be starting 32 next time. So we can see this as,
we finished it in Prabhupada's presence.
Yay! Jai Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. thank you all very much for tuning in and continuing to watch Bhagavatam Bites. Please like,
comment, share.
And subscribe.
That's just because you got burps.
Sorry. That's actually an ecstatic symptom, I think.
Right, okay. Right. Thank you very much. Thank you,
Hare Krishna. Bhagavatam Bites ki jai. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Just want to do a little close-up of Srila Prabhupada now. So stay tuned. Hare Krishna.